So there are two kinds of nurturing email campaigns that you can do as an email marketer. And I'm bucketing these in pretty broad groups. So one would be a drip nurture, while the other would be more of an event-based nurture. And I'll walk through the differences between the two. And I will, for the most part, always be in the camp of that an event-based nurture is best, but that's a little bit dependent on the resources you have, the products you sell, and other factors. So let me walk through a little bit of the differences between the two. So a drip nurture, for example, let's say I have a product that can sell to several different types of teams. It'd work for support teams, sales teams, and marketing teams, right? Well, the kinds of messaging that I want to put together for those folks is going to be different for each one. So I put together, like in this case, a persona-based drip nurture that talks about the use cases, the customer client needs, the reason behind having the product that exists and why they would need it, and I create these touch points that span over several days and weeks. So let's say that I build one of these, and a portion of my database is obviously built for support. Then whenever I find out information that a person in my database is on a support team, they will go through this drip nurture that will maybe tell them about my product, talk about the pain point that they're experiencing, and try and showcase why they might need our brand. So let's compare that now to an event-based nurture track, which will, for the sake of argument, we'll just go through a welcome campaign. It's based on an action of the customer. So if a user, let's take an app for example, and we're trying to activate, we welcome them and we want them to download it so they can start using. Well, they sign up for an account, and the first email that they get, which they're expecting because they completed an action or an event, would be a welcome. And those will typically see very high open rates because they're expecting it. Now, what I choose to send them after that depends on actions of the user. So I will wait until they download, and then if they download, then I might then send a triggered email based on that download that encourages them to use a feature. If they don't download, well, I don't have an event or action to base it off of, so I might put a max number of days that I'm willing to wait, and then if I didn't download, I try and reactivate them with a reminder email. So a couple of things that stand out to me as far as the differences go is that drip nurtures can have the tendency to overlap when you don't realize it. And because it's always easy to put together, they last essentially forever. And if I have several different paths, especially if there's different product lines, and then users get put into these different product lines, what happens is then whatever causes a user to go through these different drips, they might get several of these different emails at once, which isn't the most ideal experience because they weren't necessarily expecting or performing some of that sort of action that would encourage them to receive that communication from you. On the other hand, an event-based one can make a lot more sense. Whether it's events or actions from the user that are more assertive, like raising their hand, whether it's a form submission or a support ticket. There's other actions that you can base it off of, such as, let's say they visit a pricing page, or they got so close to checking out but they abandoned the cart. Those are kinds of events and triggers that can create emails to be sent that make much more sense for the journey. And I like that better because the users expect it and they're wanting that to, it's a more cohesive experience to get communications from brands that know where you are within your journey. It would be dangerous to have a drip nurture that talks about just like the need of the product when I'm actually further down the sales cycle and ready to buy. So these are pretty simple ideas at the beginning, and there's certainly through automation platforms you can use filters and different mechanisms to help exclude folks from either getting emails too often or pulling them out of drips that no longer apply. And so really, at the end of the day, folks create, some of the best marketers create hybrids of these two so that they can continue to get the information to users that they need or clients that they need, but also not sending them anything that they don't want or aren't expecting. So hope that helps.